Welcome back to the Ripe Wave audio community, where we explore together all types of home audio systems from hi-fi to home theater. My name is John, and in this session, we will talk about how to shop for a UHD player. A 4K UHD player is the latest version of the Blu-ray physical disc format capable of supporting the ultra-high definition 4K Blu-ray movie disc with 3840 by 2160 resolution, which provides twice the resolution of standard high-definition Blu-ray content. With 4K UHD, the television picture maintains its sharpness even with larger screens and closer viewing distances. Although 8K UHD 7680 by 4320 televisions have already hit the market, the question of whether there will be a supporting 8K UHD physical media remains open. The success of streaming and the associated file sizes are obstacles facing 8K media. Time will tell. Until then, a 4K UHD player is the best source available. As my best Blu-ray player just turned 10 years old and cannot play 4K UHD discs, it is time for an upgrade. Perhaps you are also ready to upgrade. So let's go through the process together. While you may have different needs and may ultimately settle on a different player, I believe it is possible to follow some of the same shopping techniques and knowledge in order to make an educated selection. If you have some additional pointers, be sure to add them to the comments section. So let's now have some fun and begin the shopping process. As this will be for my main system, I'm going to seek out a unit that is feature-rich and high-performing, and therefore this shopping exercise is worthy of a full study. So, what do you play? Many players today are universal players and can not only play a wide range of physical media formats, they can connect to streaming services, media servers, and drives. Start by taking inventory of your own library. Which video, audio, and photo disc formats do you want this player to support? You will find that some of the less popular formats are no longer supported by all players. For example, it may be harder to find a unit that can play DVD audio discs. Support for DVD HD might be non-existent. If you don't own many of the old format discs, it might be better to hold on to an older player for the few times it is needed than to insist on it being supported by a new universal player. Streaming services have taken center stage today. If you are like me, you subscribe to a few of them. While there are many options for connecting to these services, we'll just note our favorite online services for now. Finally, if you plan to use a local service such as a media server or network drive, then also take note of them for your planning. So let's start by establishing a baseline. To really know which features will really be new to me, and to ensure I do not lose functionality that I have become accustomed to, I record the capabilities and features of my current player. I find the manual is the best source of truth, as reviews and online matrices can have errors or missed details. I find it easiest to look online for the manuals. In my case, I will be replacing a mid-level Sony BDP BX57, which sold for $200 in 2010, and it is still posted on the Sony site. And while you will see a variety of labels used in the manuals, I like to group features by category as follows: video media, audio media, video processing and coordination, audio surround decoding, audio processing, video streaming, audio streaming, digital outputs, analog outputs, and its physical characteristics and usability. Without thinking too hard at first, I simply capture all the data. Once collected, I reflect on what I like, what I don't like, or believe is missing. I also review the features of my AV processor and TV to better understand where the holes and untapped potential lie. You will find that some capabilities are useless unless supported sufficiently downstream. Let us explore a little of each category with some tips and what I am looking for. Video media. In comparing the manual with your current library, how well does your current player support the formats you have? Is there a disc you wish you could play but can't? I started buying UHD 4K discs in anticipation of this upgrade. As they also come with a second standard Blu-ray disc, we could still watch the movie today, just not in 4K. My Sony player supports, of course, Blu-ray, Blu-ray 3D, BD Live, DVD video, and AV-CHD format for camcorders. The main problem today is that I cannot play UHD movies. Otherwise, I'm pretty well covered in this category. So my wish list for video media is to simply add UHD 4K support. Keep all but the AV-CHD support, as I do not have those discs, so that one I can drop. Please note, we do regard 3D Blu-rays as an interesting experience, but often prefer to pop in the standard Blu-ray disc as the glasses are a bit uncomfortable. We do have several discs in 3Ds, so it would be nice to continue to watch them on occasion. Looking to audio media. Conduct a similar comparison as with the video formats. The formats to think hard about are DVD audio and super audio SACDs. Given that we are not likely to see a new audio disc format, you may consider opting for a higher performing dedicated SACD DVD audio player. For me, even a dedicated audio player would have to support multi-channel audio, as those formats often include additional channels. My Sony player supports Blu-ray pure audio, super audio SACDs, and compact discs. It does not support DVD audio. As I don't have any DVD audio discs, that omission has not been an issue. So my wish list for audio media is to keep support for CD and SACD. Blu-ray Pure Audio is supported by all Blu-ray players, so that won't be an issue. Video processing and coordination. For this category, it helps to know the capabilities of your TV. In general, many players will scale the video down if the TV has a lower resolution than the player. Similarly, many TVs with a higher resolution than the source will upscale video to its full resolution. Of course, it is best for both player and TV to support the same natively, and will look better as a result. A player and TV can negotiate settings if both support DLNA, regardless of brand. In my case, both support 12-bit color, 24 frames per second, and DLNA, and my TV will upscale to 4K. My video processing wish list is to add what is not available on this Sony model: high dynamic range support, something we will need to research later. Audio surround decoding. For this category, you will need to know a bit about both your player and AV processor as to whether the player can decode and the AV processor can receive. There are three methods if supported by the player. One, the player decodes to analog outputs and then sends to the AV processor, which must have multi-channel audio inputs. Two, the player decodes to HDMI with PCM signals. In this case, the AV processor must have an HDMI input. Or three, the player decodes to SPDIF, either optically or through coax, with PCM signal. And then the AV processor must also have the SPDIF inputs. There is some benefits to having a UHD player decode surround sound versus the AV processor for two reasons. One, if the UHD player supports a lossless surround format and the AV processor does not, the AV processor could receive the PCM signal from the UHD player provided they both support a common interface, such as HDMI for that signal, albeit the number of channels is restricted to the lowest value between them. And two, only the player can decode the director's commentary. So my audio surround decoding wish list is kind of a nice to have here, not required. I do not listen to director's commentary, and my AV processor needs to be updated as well. I suppose it may help while I still have my older processor. For audio processing, upscaling of audio can improve the audio quality on sources with lower sampling rates and is a nice addition. Downscaling is helpful when the source has a higher sampling rate than supported by the AV processor. In my current unit is limited to 48 kilohertz. My audio processing wish list is that upscaling is a plus. Configurable downscale is required to help match the capabilities of the AV processor. Video streaming and audio streaming. You will want to ensure that the onboard video streaming capabilities will be sufficient compared to standalone units such as Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV. If streaming is important to you, you may want to use a wired gigabit Ethernet connection. Weigh onboard streaming against dedicated streaming units, which are small and can be tucked away out of sight. If you have a media server or separate high-res audio device, this is a path you might take, but consider whether or not it would be best to connect directly to your AV processor. My video and audio streaming wish list is this is not a factor for me. I might have a future need for connecting a media server or separate high-res audio device, but perhaps it would be better to use the AV processor as the point of connection versus having the feature built in to the UHD player. Digital outputs. Having HDMI and SPDIF are essential for today's connectivity. My digital output wish list is to maintain HDMI and SPDIF interfaces or improve upon them. Having a separate HDMI output for audio only may be important for compatibility for AV processors without HDCP Content Protection 2.2. Analog outputs. Modern capable AV processors support all the surround formats, have an HDMI connector, and given that, you may not need an analog output. I am more likely to ensure that the AV processor has the best DACs in my system and surround capabilities. However, the decoding and DACs on board a UHD player, along with additional outputs, may better enable me to bridge the gap while I am upgrading. So for analog outputs, my wish list is a nice to have. My next generation AV processor is likely to have equal or better quality DACs. Now let's turn our attention to the physical characteristics and usability of the player. The unit must be a good physical match for your system. It should fit in with similar quality, size, color, and materials. Think of usability items such as how the menu system works, the buttons, the location of the USB ports, and the remote. Determine if you are bothered by LEDs or displays which cannot be dimmed or disabled. I'm not, and like that my current player has a display in the front with details about playing time and mode. For my physical usability wish list, I want a quality appearance, faster load times, and better menus. I do wish the startup time was better on my Sony, as it takes a while before the disc can be played or ejected. The menus on this player are old-looking but functional. This would be more of a factor if I was using streaming more through this player. The overall performance. I will just assume that you are like me and expect to notice an overall performance increase for video and sound in line with advancements available in 2020. So for my overall performance wish list, I want this to be as good as possible for the target price. Which brings up target spend. You should have a price range in mind. This could reset after exploring the market, but set an initial expectation. With the outlook for 8K physical media unknown, it may be safe to spend a little more for this round. My target spend is between $250 and $1,000 US, which is a large range. However, this range is likely to rule out the real high-end market. So without looking deeply into anything new, we now have a full wish list set using our current player as the baseline. We will continue our UHD player shopping in the next video by fully exploring what is new and refining that wish list. From there, we will explore the available models, eliminate a few as we go along, and eventually find out which UHD player will land in our home theaters. While you wait for the next installment, we would like to hear from you. Comment including details about how you shop for gear. Furthermore, if you enjoyed this video and are interested in enhancing your audio experience, please like and subscribe to this RipeWave audio community, and be sure to select the bell icon so you will be notified as soon as the next video is posted. Until then, keep evolving your audio experience.